Hey, what's up, guys? CombatCritique here. Let's take a look at this upcoming fight between Daniel Rodriguez and Santiago Ponzinibbio. So let's get started. If we take a look at the records of these two fighters, starting with D-Rod. So D-Rod has 21 fights in total, and he's won 17 of his 21 fights, lost just 4. If we talk about his 17 wins, he has 8 wins via knockout, 4 via submission, and another 5 wins via decision. If we talk about his 4 losses, he has been knocked out just once, and he has also been submitted just once, and he has 2 losses via decision. Overall, it's hard to finish D-Rod. That's what you can see from his record. And if we talk about his wins, it is evenly balanced between all three, but he is more of a knockout guy, which you can see from his record. And if he doesn't win via knockout, the fight likely goes to a decision. In recent memory, his wins have been via decision, as we'll see in a few minutes. Now let's take a look at Santiago Ponzinibbio's record. He has 36 fights, so more MMA experience for Ponzinibbio compared to D-Rod. He's won 29 of his 36 fights and lost 7. If we talk about his 29 wins, he has 16 wins via knockout, 6 wins via submission, and another 7 via decision. So he is also very similar in terms of the win column compared to D-Rod. Both of these guys are looking for that knockout, and if they don't win via knockout, then they'll likely win via decision. Now let's see the 7 losses that Ponzinibbio has on his record. He has lost 4 times via knockout, so that chin is suspect, and he has also lost 3 times via decision. He's never been submitted as a pro. Now let's take a look at the physical and career stats of these two guys. Starting with the height, it is 6'1" for Daniel Rodriguez, and it is 6'0" for Ponzinibbio. So a slight 1 inch height advantage goes to D-Rod. If we talk about the weight, both these guys will be fighting at welterweight, which is 170 pounds. I don't think anybody should miss weight for this fight. Reach is 74 inches for D-Rod, and it is 73 inches for Ponzinibbio. So again, a very slight 1 inch reach advantage goes to D-Rod. If we talk about the stance, so D-Rod is a southpaw, whereas Santiago Ponzinibbio is an orthodox stance fighter. And talking about the age, both these guys have the same age. Now let's take a look at the career stats, starting with the strikes landed per minute. So this signifies the number of significant strikes that you land on your opponent per minute on average. This is 7.3 for D-Rod, which is really high, and it is 4.9 for Ponzinibbio. So in this case, the advantage goes to D-Rod. He is landing quite a few more significant strikes on his opponents than Ponzinibbio. Striking accuracy is 50% for D-Rod, and it is 41% for Ponzinibbio. So again, the advantage goes to D-Rod. He is more accurate with his strikes. Next up, we have the strikes absorbed per minute, and this is the opposite of strikes landed per minute. This signifies the number of significant strikes that you absorb from your opponent per minute. This is 5.28 for D-Rod, which is pretty high, and it is 4.67 for Ponzinibbio. So in this case, the guy with the lower number has an advantage because he is getting hit lesser. Striking defense is 56% for D-Rod, and it is 61% for Ponzinibbio. So he will have an advantage here. So overall, the first 2 metrics that we have seen are the offensive striking metrics, which is strikes landed per minute and striking accuracy. These two favor D-Rod. And the last two that we have seen are the defensive striking metrics, the strikes absorbed per minute and the striking defense. Those favor Santiago Ponzinibbio. So D-Rod is more of a better offensive striker, whereas Ponzinibbio has better striking defense. Now let's take a look at the wrestling, grappling and BJJ statistics. Starting with the takedown average, it is 0.62 for D-Rod and 0.48 for Ponzinibbio. So a slight advantage here goes to D-Rod. Takedown accuracy is 50% for D-Rod and 30% for Santiago Ponzinibbio. So again, the advantage here goes to D-Rod. Takedown defense is 63% for D-Rod and it is 60% for Ponzinibbio. So both these guys are pretty even, but a very slight advantage again goes to D-Rod. Submission average 0.1 for D-Rod and it is 0 for Ponzinibbio. Ponzinibbio has never attempted a submission in the UFC so far. So again, a very slight advantage goes to D-Rod. So In the striking, it's a bit of a toss-up, but in the wrestling, all these metrics favor D-Rod slightly. Also, he is on paper the taller fighter with a 1-inch reach advantage. I think these are all small contributors, and these all add up. Let's take a look at the significant strikes by position for these two guys, starting with D-Rod. So 95% of all his strikes are in the standing position, 1% in the clinch, and 4% on the ground. If we compare that with Santiago Ponzinibbio, so again 95% of all strikes that Ponzinibbio throws are from the standing position, 2% on the clinch and 3% on the ground. So both these guys are pretty even. I don't think there's any difference. Now let's take a look at the significant strikes by target. Starting with D-Rod, 66% of all his strikes are to the head, 15% to the body and 19% to the leg. If we compare it with Ponzinibbio, 70% of all Ponzinibbio's strikes are to the head, 13% to the body and 17% to the leg. So Ponzinibbio headhunts a little bit more than D-Rod, whereas D-Rod goes to the body and to the leg a little bit more than Ponzinibbio. I don't think these 1-2% differences are significant, however, so both these guys are pretty even. Now let's take a look at some of the previous performances of these two guys, starting with D-Rod. So D-Rod, in his last fight, he got beat by Ian Gary in the very first round via head kick and punches. This fight happened in May of this year, so he is not taking a lot of time off and he is coming back to fight once again. Before this, he also lost to Neil Magny via Darce choke in the third round, and this fight happened in November of last year. So he has been a pretty active guy, even though he's not winning. He is on a 2-fight losing streak. Before that, however, he beat Li Jingliang in a close fight, and this was a split decision win for him. This fight happened in September of last year. It was a 3-round fight. And before that, he beat Kevin Lee via unanimous decision. This fight happened in August of 2021. It was a 3-round fight. Before that, he beat Preston Parsons via TKO in the first round. He beat Mike Perry via unanimous decision in the third round. And before that, lost to Nicholas Dalby via unanimous decision, beat Dwight Grant via knockout in the first round, Gabriel Green via unanimous decision, and Tim Means via submission guillotine choke in the second round. Now let's take a look at Santiago Ponzinibbio's recent performances. In his last fight, he lost to Kevin Holland via knockout punch. This was a good fight, and Ponzinibbio was doing good in the start. This fight happened in April of this year, so just like D-Rod, he is also not taking a lot of time off and coming back to fight once again. Before that, he beat Alex Moreno via TKO punches, and this fight happened in December of last year. So he has been a pretty active fighter recently, just like D-Rod. And before that, he lost to Michel Pereira via split decision, and Geoff Neal also a split decision. Both of these were 3-round fights. And if you talk about the fight before that, he beat Miguel Beza via unanimous decision, lost to Li Jingliang via knockout in the very first round, beat Neil Magny via KO, and also beat Mike Perry via unanimous decision. So a lot of these guys have similar opponents. If I have to pick a winner, I think in the striking, it's a bit of a toss-up. The better aggressive striker is D-Rod, whereas Santiago has better defense. However, if you take into account the wrestling, the grappling, the height and the reach advantage, I think all of those favor D-Rod slightly, and because of these reasons, I am picking D-Rod to win this fight. I think this fight is a very close fight. It is almost a 50-50 fight, but I am picking D-Rod. I think he has a good chin and he's been knocked out just once, and that too in his last fight against Ian Gary via head kick. I think Santiago Ponzinibbio likely will not do that to D-Rod, and D-Rod will win a unanimous decision. That's it for this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'll see you guys in the next video.